Welcome to the QCA Wrestle Podcast with Rob Hill and Jay Zyman. Our guest today is James Ealy. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show. We are here tonight with Coach James Ealy from Rock Island Alleman. Coach Ealy wrestled for Moline, and in 1996 he was a captain of the state championship wrestling team there. After competing, he went on to coach at Macomb as an assistant and has since been a head coach at Sherrard, Moline, and Alleman. So made a really good impact, especially here in the Quad Cities wrestling. So, James, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
First thing, and I've said this 3 or 4 times, maybe more now, but we hopefully will be able to stop talking about it relatively soon. But I know in Illinois especially, with your governor, everything's kind of got everything kind of locked down still. So how are you keeping yourself busy during this crazy time in our world?
Not a whole lot has changed really with summer vacation around. The few weeks before that, things were absolutely different. But my wife, with me being home, had a gigantic list of things that needed to be done and should be done. And now there's no excuse. So we got that done. We built a fence, stained the deck, pressure washed the house. We got a new floor in our kitchen. So that's basically how I stayed busy. It's not the typical busy. We're around the kids and being active and doing that. But, we found ways to get through it. It was different, but different's not always bad.
How'd you get your start in wrestling, Coach?
I got it from my dad. He was a wrestler. Probably the same story as I'd say 85% of all wrestlers, their dad or their uncle or someone wrestled. And, this is back in the day when we were doing it. There was maybe some youth practices at your school that were maybe one day a week. Then you'd go out to a tournament on a Saturday. They were never on Sundays. So you'd spend your Saturday and miss cartoons and go wrestle. Maybe 30 matches a year was a ton. Back when I was going through it in the mid-late 80s as a youth wrestler. And it just kind of went from there. It's the same way, my son's going to be a freshman next year, and he got into wrestling that way because, we were doing it just a way for me and my dad to kind of bond. My parents were divorced, and my dad had me every other weekend, and that was kind of our thing. When I went to his house, we went and wrestled. That's how we got to spend quite a bit of time together.
Sure. Is your son going to be a Pioneer next year?
He is not. This is one of those weird things. He'll be a freshman next year, and he's actually going to go to Moline. He's gone through the Moline public schools the whole time. He has, pretty established there, all his friends. I'd probably say wrestling is his third favorite sport of all of them that he does. So he plays football and wrestles and plays baseball. But, we let him decide where do you want to go. So he will be at Moline next year, and he'll be in good hands with Coach Rudiger and Coach Thompson and all those guys over there. And it's going to be weird to say this. If he wrestles against us, I hope he wins them all except for one.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. Yeah. So do you duel with Moline most years?
We do. We're in the same conference.
Okay. Yeah.
So
you'll see him.
We duel. We're in the conference tournament where, I'm not even sure he'll be varsity. He's not a bad little athlete or anything, but we haven't really stressed, we're going to just wrestle and we're just going to just wrestle and hammer it out just because I'm a wrestling coach and I love it. Doesn't mean that, all right, now my son has to be as passionate about it and do this. I want him to kind of do his own thing and figure it out. And I think when he gets up there with those guys and in that room and gets to, roll around with the Charlie Farmers and the Noah Tapias and, those guys, so you look at the people as a freshman, he might have the opportunity just to work out with, even though he's JV. What a great opportunity for him.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. You can't help but grow with those kinds of partners for sure.
So all the kids know, because last year was going to be my last year at Alleman, but we have a pretty unique for a small school group of seniors coming, I have 5, seniors that I think can legitimately all be all state next year, and when I took over the Alleman program, they started in the kids club, and I met their parents there and we were doing things. So It was one of those, those are my kids too. That group that went all the way through. So, I might miss some of my son's stuff, but I have, those 5 other guys that it was going to be just too hard to walk away from them.
Yeah, you've got a good group there. They're fun to watch. That'll be awesome. Awesome seeing them through their senior year. That's very cool. Who are some of the wrestlers that maybe were your role models or influenced your wrestling style growing up?
I would say it was predominantly, I started my youth career out at Rock Ridge. So I went to Rock Ridge 1st through 8th grade and wrestled in their kids club and moved to Moline. Back then we had a coach, Jeff Schmierbach, who was a phenomenal guy, just, high character, high intensity, just kind of wrestle intense, wrestle physical. It was always about doing things right. And then, when I went to Moline, Coach Rosenthal was an excellent technician at the time and whatnot. So you look at some of that technique, and truth be told, he ended up being 2 years younger than me. But, when you get in a room and you have a kid like Matt Lackey in there with you, and you're watching what this kid can just do, and he comes in as a freshman and he's just lighting it up in 2A wrestling in Illinois, you just sat back and, kind of say, wow, so it was really probably just my teammates that I had going through. Like you said, we won a state title in '96, and I believe we're still the only school outside of Chicago area to ever win a big school state title in the state of Illinois. And, we did it. We did not have one all-stater that year. We did not have one kid place in the state tournament, but we won the state championship as a team because out of 13 weights, I think we had 12 kids with over 30 wins, and we had 8 state qualifiers, and no one had less than 20. So that wrestling style was just keep grinding, man. Even if you're not that talented, there's no excuse not to get outworked by anyone. The Derek Jeter. Someone might be more talented, but there's never a reason for anyone to work harder than you. So we kind of took that as our approach, and I just love kids like that, and I love coaching kids like that. Seeing the development, the kid come in as a freshman and not win a match, and then they qualify for the state tournament as a senior. That it's hard to teach them a style, and they're playing 3 sports. They just put in the work. So those guys that are willing to step out there, even without a lot of success, why do they keep coming back? Why do they keep coming back? And working that hard when they don't get maybe the results early, those are the kids that influence me. Because if they're working that hard and not winning, and I'm having some success, boy, I better work hard too. And those guys, I think guys like that really help keep me accountable.
I love that. I love the energy on that too, Coach. Especially coming from a smaller school as Rock Island Alleman. What is a graduating class, or what is the average class size up there?
I think there's around 420 in the whole school. So right around 100 or so kids per class.
You're competing against Moline, Rock Island, schools like that their graduating class is way larger than that. So that's pretty impressive going toe to toe with them.
Yeah, Quincy, Moline, Rock Island, UT. Like you said, they have a graduating class that's bigger than our entire school by a couple hundred probably, or close to it. We're 420, they're 2,200. And that's where, that approach I talked about last time, we just got to work. We're giving up some weights, and, we're not able to have our kids being at a small school. I'm sure DeWitt's kind of the same way, not being a gigantic school where you got a lot of kids. I don't have any one kid on my team that just wrestles. Everyone does multiple sports because we have to, so we got to find ways in that time and use it. So when we get those opportunities, we talk about all the time, the most important thing you have is time with our guys, because once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get that back. So that small little window that we have together, we better be doing it right if we want to be able to compete with these other guys, and not just compete. We want to win. We're starting to change the expectation. Like, we shouldn't just be hanging around now. we have a chance, just us being little Alleman, to get something done here. And, I think those boys buy into it, and they understand what they're up against, and they never back down, which is so awesome, which is, again, that bit like I talked about, we got thumped and thumped and thumped, and they just kept coming back, be like, we can do it, we can do it. So, in that sense, it's so rewarding, even if we might not win the Western Big Six titles or anything like that. The fact that we're right there with them, with what we have comparatively, is pretty impressive to me.
So, Coach, it's been a couple years since you've donned the singlet, right? So, how has wrestling evolved or changed since you were wrestling to the kids that you're coaching now?
Look, I don't try to be that back in the day guy whatsoever. I tell everyone, like my friends that were on that team, and they'll look at me like, oh, kids were way tougher back in our day, the back in the day type stories. These kids are so much better now. I mean, everything's evolved. If we were continually doing this stuff, it's hard to just be the scrappy kid and win. You can be competitive and do things, but the specialization of it all, we didn't have the extra luxury when I was there, when, we had our high school coach, and hopefully you had a good one. I was fortunate enough to have a pretty good one. But if you didn't, you couldn't go down to a room in Augustana with a sack of hammers with one of the best wrestlers in the country, one of the best, and that's just in the Quad Cities. And they have it in Chicago, and they have it here. The sports evolved so much, to really be good and excel at it. It has changed tremendously. We won a state title because we were all just blue collar, grinded out, hardworking, which of course you still need, but now you need so much more. You look at technique and everything. Had someone hit an Easton tilt in 1996 or tried a funk roll under the leg in 96, people would be like, what's this joker doing? That's not real wrestling. They go crazy about it. But I mean, and then you see it works and it evolves, and it just keeps building on each other. So we're trying to keep up. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and I steal stuff from other coaches all the time. It's fortunate, again, I'm real good friends with Coach Rudiger, Coach Thompson down at Young Guns. We pick each other's brains because, we want ourselves to do well, but we want Quad City Wrestling to succeed overall. Like I said, it's the old iron sharpens iron. So, send them down there, get them beat up on a little bit because, you have the opportunity, take advantage of it.
I love that. So, you had mentioned your high school coach. Who has been some of the influential role models that you've had growing up as a wrestler, as far as your coaches that you've had, or even that you've had to deal with as assistant coach or head coaches?
I think what really started was down in Macomb with a guy named Steve Horrell. He was the head coach at Macomb. Now he's their athletic director. He kind of changed persona because I came from a program. It was all about win, 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 win. Like winning's the most important. Winning's the most important. And I get down there, and we weren't very good at the time. And I'm like, oh, we got to win. We got to do this. And he's kind of like, no, the most important thing is relationships and using wrestling to coach kids. He said we don't coach wrestling, we coach kids. We just use wrestling to coach kids. In all these areas. Then when I came back, I actually was an assistant coach at Alleman with John Weatherall, he was the head coach before I took over. And he was kind of that same way. He was a general contractor. He'd wake up at 5 a.m. and come in exhausted and beat down. And, we wanted to win, but it was about these kids. Like, what are we going to do? They're not going to wrestle forever. I tell the kids this: wrestling is one of the best sports you can do because whether you like it or not, you might get in a bar fight and it's going to help you. It has applicable skills. Okay. But, outside of that, you're not going to wrestle your whole life. I tell them it's hard if you look at the number of colleges that have it. If you're doing this to get a scholarship, you better focus on those grades a little bit more, buddy, because there's a lot easier ways, than doing this. Our team goal, what we do, and this is where I learned from Horrell and Weatherall the most, we want to be better than we were yesterday. That's the goal at Alleman, and not just in wrestling, in everything. We take that everything's relative approach. If you'll slack in your schoolwork, it's going to catch up to you in that big match because you haven't challenged yourself and put yourself in that pressure situation. Those times where you're furious at your parents and, you're going to have a bad attitude instead of being thankful for everything that they gave you. It's going to catch up to you on the wrestling mat. And, with us having kids play multiple sports and do this, you have to challenge yourself all the time because everything is relative. It's about being just better than we were yesterday and not at the sport of wrestling. Those two guys primarily were hugely influential in that.
A lot of good messages there. A lot of good messages for sure. We wanted to ask you, what's the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome either as during your wrestling career or as a coach?
As a wrestler, I think it was just that, bit of self-doubt. I was fairly successful as a youth wrestler, and I was out at Rock Ridge and I came to Moline, and I wasn't even a full-time varsity wrestler till I was a junior. We had to overcome that, and it's kind of weird now. And to be perfectly honest, the COVID-19 outbreak has helped contributed to my size at this moment. But, I wrestled 103 pounds as a junior in high school. Now I'm going about 6'2", 215. Sure. So I'm getting down there, and being that small guy, I had that, little bit of Napoleon thing, are you big enough to do it? Will people say, oh, look at that the little guy over there. And then I think the hardest thing as a coach that I've had to overcome is not everyone's me. It took me a long time. And again, when I first started, it was about that winning, like, well, you're out for the wrestling team. You should be as passionate as me. You should do this. You should want this. You should want that. We're not all the same. I had to overcome that and finally realize that, we're a team made up of individuals. And I don't care what it is. And I can hammer one guy and get in his face, and another guy I might have to hug, and it took me a little bit to get past that idea that everyone, is me and they want it as bad as I do, that they might be out for wrestling for a different reason than I was, and it took me a while. And now we spend quite a bit of time getting to know every kid on a personal level because it helps me coach them better.
Great answer, Coach. Hey, first of all, I'm going to pick on one of our local news channels. Looking at this past year and this next upcoming year, what are we seeing out of your team? Now, I know you got a good wrestler, Jake Padding?
Yeah, Jake Padding.
I heard that a lot on the news. It's Jack Padding, just so that everyone knows. Stud football player, stud wrestler. But tell us about your last season and this upcoming season. You got a lot of got some upperclassmen coming. You were telling us earlier.
Yeah, Jack is a stud football player, all conference in football, playing linebacker in the Western Big Six at 160 pounds. But that he's got that wrestler mentality. He's got that form. He's got that, break it down and, run through the tackle. And he's pretty much just out there double-legging kids. And, he makes it look pretty good. But, stud wrestler, he is right now tied for the all-time win record in our school history after his junior year. So if he gets one more win next year, he's going to break the record, which is, he did it in 3 years. So hopefully, we can talk about that later. Hopefully he gets that opportunity. Fingers crossed with everything that's going on. We have Billy Taylor, who's going to be a senior. He's a 2-time state qualifier. We have David Diericks, who will be a senior. He's won over 30 matches all 3 years. 1 year he won over 40. We have Gage Mowry, who's been a state qualifier. He misses pretty much entire sophomore year with a collarbone that broke in like 3 spots during a match down at Muddy Waters. Eli Denton, finally, and this is what we're talking about for the team. Eli Denton was my heavyweight his first 2 years, and last year he wrestled 195 because, you know, we had a pretty good freshman heavyweight come in that got 4th in the state as a freshman at heavyweight last season. And, you know, he came into the season at 240 before we started and worked his way down and was 195 and was a match away from qualifying for state, you know, after putting in all that work. So he'll be back. And, you know, like I said, we have a junior that'll probably be 106 as a junior, which is a big advantage. He's that kid that came in at 88 pounds as a freshman and took his lumps. You know, and last year he weighed about 103, 104 and won 30 matches. Now he might actually have to lose about 6 or 7 pounds to get to 106. So we're excited about that. You know, everywhere we have somebody, I think they're, you know, they're tougher than heck. The problem is we got about 3 spots right now where we don't have anybody. So that's what we're looking at. But I think those guys can more than make up for it, especially in Class A. When we wrestle a full lineup like Moline, Rock Island, you know, and they also have good wrestlers who are up against it, yeah. But, you know, again, we want to win. But, you know, if we wrestle them hard and we're better than before we started that dual meet, oh, well. But I think next year is going to be a pretty exciting year for us. And that's why, you know, even though my son's going to a different school next year, I'm coming back.
It's going to be exciting to watch. I'm excited just hearing some of this, Coach. We're going to definitely keep close tabs on you guys. So unusual offseason this year. We've talked, unfortunately, about the COVID a little bit already, but what have you guided your wrestlers to do to keep building towards their wrestling goals?
You know, I just told them control what you can control. That's what we work on all the time. It's like this is out of our hands right now. You know, we can sit here and whine about it, and we can sit here and cry about it and be like, oh, you know, whatever your stance is, the governor's an idiot, or we should be more cautious, or whatever your thing is. You know, we can't control that. You know, there's something you could be doing to be better, and it might not even, you know, reading a book that's outside of your comfort zone might help you become a better wrestler by, you know, becoming mentally stronger and, you know, changing a bit of perspective on something. So, you know, we just kind of encourage them, do something. This isn't an excuse, you know, just to sit back and be like, well, it's not exactly the way I want it, so I'm just not going to do it. You know, where I think a lot of people buy into that. Well, I can't do this, so I'm not going to do anything. You know, sorry, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's not what we're trying to do. You might not be able to do it the way you want to do it, but there's still something you could be doing. You know, and again, that's that challenge that takes you out of your comfort zone. Everything would be great if we got to do what we wanted to do all the time, just what we wanted to do. That's not life. That's not realistic. You know, ask my wife. She'll tell you, I don't get to do what I want to do all the time. But.
No doubt. Most of us married guys, we know how that is, right?
That might be one of those edit moments.
You do get to do once in a while what you want to do, though, right?
Yeah, every now and again.
Oh, okay. That's going to lead us right into our sudden death, Coach. Sudden death OT questions here, okay?
Okay.
Some have to do with wrestling. Some have absolutely nothing to do with wrestling, okay?
Okay.
So, first question, I'm going to throw out another curveball out here at you. I hear there's a big golf game possibly going on tomorrow with Ted Thompson, Jacob Rudiger, yourself. I don't know who the fourth is. Who's going to win?
We are. The fourth is my assistant coach. So it's a Alleman versus Moline Battle Royale on the link tomorrow.
Awesome. What is your favorite wrestling movie?
My favorite wrestling movie, growing up in the era I did, was probably, you know, Vision Quest. Every time I hear Lunatic Fringe, I still get all jacked up. It made me want to, you know, get good on a jump rope, and made me kind of a big Madonna fan at the same time from when that was going on. But yeah, that was always a good one, you know. Anytime that dude gives a speech in the hotel, and we tell the boys, you know, it's not about the 6 minutes. It's what happens in the 6 minutes. You're just like, yeah, I'm ready now. You know, I'm getting pretty jacked up here.
All right. Favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? I'm going to have to say Spider-Man. I've been watching a lot of those those Spider-Man movies lately. I just kind of like his style. He's low key about it, you know. He's just your friendly neighborhood guy. He's not out, even though he's got that stuff, looking to do something great. Even though he's good, he just wants to help. You know, he doesn't need to be like, hey, everyone look at me, even though I got all these superpowers. You know, he keeps it pretty humble.
Sure. A lot more humble than I think I would. I'd be flying around having a good time, I think.
Right. Take the mask off.
Favorite wrestling match of all time?
That's got to be the 96 state championship match that we won. It was pretty crazy. We were down 29-16 with 3 weights left to go.
Wow.
And our 106 pounder, Tony Tapia, he got a major. So we're down 29-20. His son, Noah Tapia, wrestles at Moline now. Really, really good kid. And then Joel Couture, who was a stud at Moline, he was a freshman that year. He's getting beat 7-1 with 30 seconds left and gets an escape and almost Vision Quest style, cuts it through to a trap arm body lock, throws the kid and pins him with 3 seconds left on the clock when he was down 7-1 with 30 seconds left. And then Jason Woods, who went on to wrestle at Loris and is Dr. Woods now, he works at St. Cloud State, not as a wrestling coach because he has his doctorate in education. He got a major, and we went major, pin major, and we went 30-29. Wow.
That's
awesome. My match there, too, though, I always try to tell people I was kind of the hero. It's kind of weird, and it's a great lesson for my kids, though. I was pretty decent. I was a captain. You know, I had like 36 wins and, you know, almost qualified for state and 2A when there were 2 classes at the time. And the last bit of advice that my coach gave me was don't get pinned. Because I'm wrestling the 2-time state champ, the 2-time Fargo champ, a kid who went to Wisconsin. He said, don't get pinned. And I got teched, and we won by a point.
Did what you had to do. Yep.
So, you know, I'm not embarrassed to get my very last match. I got tech falled. My last competitive high school match ever, I was technical falled. But you know what? When we won 30-29, that tech fall felt pretty stinking good, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh.
That's a great tech fall for that's always fun to watch. A lot of dual tournaments I've kind of helped coach at the youth level. We'll talk about that all the time, and I'm sure I'm at a higher level at the high school level. I'm sure you do too. It's, hey, whatever you can do to help your team. Sometimes it is don't get pinned. Sometimes it's going for the major. Sometimes it's getting the fall. You know, everyone's got a role. You have to do what you can to help the team at that moment. So.
Especially teaching them young. That's kind of the big thing. One of our youth coaches a while back started these junior pioneer duels that we have, this takedown hunger. You know, and we wanted to be service also, so we don't charge admission if you bring canned goods, and we donate it all. And even when you do, you know, if you got to pay the $2, it all goes to local food banks and charities, because we found we were losing kids, but that team aspect that you're talking about. I don't think kids and parents get to see that. You know, wrestling isn't just sitting in a gym, you know, all day on a Sunday, you know, waiting for your kid to wrestle 3 times in 7 hours. Yeah. You know, you get some of this team camaraderie and you do it. So, you know, we're trying to build that up, and it's really helped. You know, I think if we would push at a youth level that team aspect more of it, because I tell people all the time, like, wrestling's the greatest team sport ever. We got a lot of kids at our school that apparently you can be good at football by getting big. All you got to do is be big. I'm going to get big, and it's going to make me better for football. Not more athletic, not more competitive. But I know wrestling's pretty much the only sport where you have to have somebody else if you want to be better. You really do. So, you know, that's why I've had a lot of individuals. I've coached a lot of individual things. But that team win probably means more than anything, because we got to do it with those guys we were battling with.
Great. Yeah, Coach, greatest U.S. Olympic wrestler of all time. And I'm going to add one more piece to it. Who you picking, Snyder or Cox for the next Olympics?
I'm going the first part of it. I got to go with Rulon Gardner just because who he beat. like when he did it. I mean, no one, people talk about, like, you watch ESPN and the greatest upsets of all time and things, and he might every now and depend on his come in at like number 10 or 11 because people weren't. But, to win that match at that moment, that guy's unbeatable. Everyone thought, it's unbeatable. And for Gardner to do that one, I say that's one of the greater Olympic stories. Aside from everyone knows Dan Gable and he doesn't get scored on, and that's right up there. But I don't know if Dan Gable beat someone like that. And that second one, that's tough. I got to go with Snyder. Just the experience and having done it all before and having that. But that's one of those flip a coin, man. I mean, I know what I wouldn't do, bet on it.
Yeah.
I know what I'll be doing that day to watch it.
While we're on that topic, guys, did you guys see that new Flow film, Bad Blood, the Dakin Burrows one?
I have not seen that one yet. No.
It's worth every minute. It's a really good one. So I was going to follow up with that. Who's going to win that one, Dake or Burrows? That's another almost unpickable in my mind. I have no idea.
And it's pretty unpickable, but what's that old saying? The only person who's ever been undefeated is Father Time. He doesn't lose. So at some point you got to go with a little bit fresher guy who's is still hungry, but then again, the Burrow's still got something to prove, and he's got a lot in the tank yet. But it's going to be pretty intense. Either way, that's what like you said. I'm not betting on that one either. But I'll give it to the savvy vet again. I'm gonna go Burrows.
I think if I had to bet on it, that's where I'd go too. But that's a tough one.
Just as a rebuttal to that, Coach, I think Dake did say that he can beat Father Time. Did he not?
Oh, I don't know. If he's referring to Jordan Burroughs as Father Time, then yes, perhaps. But I don't. Well, then again, back in the day, look, just a few years back when Randy Lewis was still doing it. I mean, how old was that dude when he took another shot at it and was still pretty successful?
Yeah. It's always.
I think I was.
Go ahead, Jay.
Oops, I was referring to that previous interview they had with the two of them debating, and didn't Dake say something in the nature that he's getting younger with time?
He's getting younger every day, is what he said.
Every day, that's it.
Oh yeah. So I tell you what, though, again, you might win that battle against Father Time, but you're not winning the war.
Yeah. The true winners of those matches are going to be the fans, I think. I'm excited for when we get that finally. Next April. It's a long time away, but it'll be awesome.
Yeah, and hopefully, and Flow Wrestling does a lot of great things, but what phenomenal matches to put out there on a mainstream to promote the sport more and do things where people wouldn't have to go to a paid platform. And don't get me wrong, I subscribe. I have a Flow account just like that because, well, I'm passionate about the sport and I like it. But, these are the kind of matches I think that we need to push out there. Like, these should be on your ESPN. These should be on ABC Wide World of Sports, and watch it here. Give everyone a chance. Like, it's an art. Look at these guys. Look at what they're doing.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Okay, favorite food? And then now that well, I guess, is Illinois open? Is there anywhere we can go eat in Illinois yet or not yet?
Well, it depends. If you want to sit outside, we have outdoor seating in Illinois. And I believe I just read today they're looking, if we keep trending, because, and it was touch and go and people said things, but I think Illinois has the most drops in COVID cases in the last few weeks. We're trending the correct way. So I think it was on the 26th, maybe we'll move to phase 4 where you can eat inside. But I'm going to go, being a Quad City guy, I like pizza. We got tons of options. We have Quad City style pizza over here in Illinois. I think they're in Iowa also. But if I don't have to travel that far, but we got Harris Pizza and Clint's Pizza, and Happy Joe's is obviously everywhere. It's a little bit different kind, but you know, you could eat pizza 5 days a week and it's going to be something different. That's what makes it kind of convenient. And it's good the next morning. It's a great leftover.
Yes, it is.
How about your favorite wrestling style, Coach?
Hard? I'd say, you know, we're gonna wrestle hard and intense. You know, don't get me wrong, technique is every bit. You know, I like watching those guys go out and do it, but I was never, you know, all that super athletic and graceful myself. So, you know, I like to watch people wrestle hard. I know it sounds kind of weird, and we do it a little bit different. We're not a big take them down and let them up, and take them down and let them up. You know, we want to grind you on the top a little bit. You know, we're gonna work there. You know, I like seeing that style of wrestling where you're not just trying to win. You know, you're trying to break the other guy a little bit and you know, kind of impose your will. I think the idea, especially for us, because a lot of my kids are that way. So when the shoe's on the other foot, where you get a kid who's far superior, and they're going for the school takedown record, so they take down that first-year wrestler that, you know, we threw out there when we could have just forfeited, and they take him down 12 times in the first period, not even using good technique or anything like that. You know, I like that wrestling style where, like, we're here to find out who the, you know, the tougher dude here, who the better guy is. And once that's established, you know, work for something, go ahead and get a turn and put them away. You know, I just like good, hard wrestling.
I do too. Favorite football team?
Boy, that's okay. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, you can't do it. You know, they've had a few good years here and there, and you know, it's Burrow time now. We got Joe Burrow with the #1 pick, and hopefully he can get things going. But it's another one of those. My dad knew of Kenny Anderson when he went to Augustana. So when Kenny Anderson got drafted by the Bengals when I was a kid, growing up, my dad was rooting for the Bengals. So I'm like, you know, go Bengals. And, you know, in the 80s there, when I was a kid, they had Boomer Esiason and Ickey Woods. And, you know, I'm in my living room doing the shuffle, and it was a great time. Yeah. Not so much since then, but I'm not fair weather.
I thought you were going to give us a demonstration of the shuffle.
No. Ceiling's a little low here where I'm at.
All right. We'll give that. How about your favorite vacation destination?
We found this a few years ago, and we love it, going down to Gulf Shores, Alabama. You know, we kind of make a little trip. It's affordable, like just to get a house right on the beach. If you go with another family, it costs us like, you know, $130 a night for a 4-bedroom house right on the beach. It's a 14-hour drive, and we split it. So like one year we'll stop in Nashville on the way down and spend the night before we go. Then you can also go to Memphis, and it's about the exact same. And, you know, have a good time the night before. The kids have fun. There's golf courses down there. Lots of things to do. So I'd say right now that's probably it.
That's a good one. All right, we like to end with this, Coach. What's your favorite quote?
You know, I'd say, and it's kind of a basketball guy, and we push this. I have so many. We actually make our kids keep a journal, and we use like quotes, and they got to write the meaning of those things we do. You know, it might be from a basketball coach actually, and John Wooden, where it's like, you know, pay more attention to your character than your reputation. You know, your character is who you really are. Your reputation is what other people think of you. So, and we focus a lot on character, and that's kind of that main thing. And it's character in all situations, and it's that relationship building. It's like, you know, are you doing it right? Was it the right way to do it? And if it wasn't, you know, we tell the kids, you know, don't focus on the product, focus on the process. We're not looking at the end result. If we had to do it wrong, if you had to cut corners and you had to do this just to get the result, you know, that's going to catch up to you at some point. You know, focus on that character aspect. Just like Coach Wooden said, you know, it comes back to, I guess, the easy way: be better than you were yesterday.
Love it. Well, Coach, it was a real pleasure getting to talk to you. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we really look forward to following Alleman and your team hopefully everyone will be back on the mat real soon, and we'll have a season ahead of us.
Yeah, we're hoping so. And thank you guys, not, for interviewing me, but all you're doing for Quad City Wrestling. This is kind of a hotbed that I think goes unnoticed a little bit because we have bigger metro areas and things around us. But again, with the population, what we have, what we do, I think it's important to get that out there to as many people. Maybe that'll encourage even more people around here to start doing it. So, thank you for helping that out.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with your friends. Give us a like and a follow on Facebook and Twitter at QCA Wrestle. And keep an eye out for more QCA wrestling content coming soon.